in my...
It is? Okay.
Yeah, like it was Friday.
Okay. Good
Now it's
afternoon,
not.
everyone. My name is Shweta, Sharan. I am one of the admins of the Bangalore Schools Group, a community of over 50,000 parents, one of the biggest communities in the city. And I am really thrilled to be here to discuss a topic that is very, very popular on our forum, on how to choose a school for your child for an uncertain future. So the future is always uncertain. Now more than ever, we know that we cannot predict much. But one thing is true, our focus on the criteria to choose schools is always evolving. We realize that one shoe doesn't fit all. So today we are really excited to talk to three people who will bring very different perspectives to the art and the science of choosing a school. So I'm really proud to introduce our first panelist, Mr. Allan Andersen. He has over 3 decades of experience in teaching. He is the founder of the globally recognized Årstad Gymnasium School in Copenhagen. He is also the founding director of the Chaman Bhartiya School, who the school is our title partner. Allan is an extraordinary leader, a visionary leader in the field of education, and believes in preparing students to succeed in a rapidly changing 21st century environment. This was something that he believed in even during the last expo, and now I realize that it holds so much truth, especially in the given context. He's also a member of the Global Schools Alliance, which is a select gathering of innovative schools. And now more than ever, I think we need to work with schools everywhere to develop, our thoughts on education and how to move forward. Our next panelist needs no introduction. Sandhya Viswan is an educator with 2 decades of experience. She is the co-admin of Bangalore Schools. She is the director of BSEI. She is also the director of Mudpie and an expert in early childhood education. She is the go-to person for everything related to schools and homeschooling in Bangalore, and she is a homeschooling parent to 2 sons. So she also runs the Bangalore homeschooling community on Facebook. And apart from the various awards she's received for contribution to parenting and early childhood education, she also conducts a wonderful counseling session for parents on how to choose schools. And what I love is that her mastery of curriculum also is balanced by her outlook on how to choose something that works for you, not just in terms of curriculum, but other factors as well. And our final panelist is Miss Moya Caddy, again, a good friend. Moya is British but has been living in India for the last 13 years. As well as being a mother of two, Moya is an early childhood educator and the founder of Super Moms of India, an online community of mothers throughout India. Another amazing, amazing community. If you guys have not checked it out, I'm sure you would have. So it's wonderful to have all of you here today. Sandhya and I have been speaking practically every day, and it's really nice to have all of you here. So my first question is to Sandhya. So again, to set the context, this discussion is about how to choose a school that prepares our child for the uncertain future. So Sandhya, my first question is to you. You receive so many questions from parents, obviously from many parents who have different factors that they consider before choosing a school. On our own forum, we have parents asking for school choices based on so many things, right from fees to distance to safety. What, in your opinion, would you say are the most important factors to consider when you are choosing a school?
Okay, thank you, Shweta, for that question. So most of the people who do come to me as part of the consultations, I think the parents are looking for something very generic. They talk about holistic education, they talk about all-round education. However, none of them are clear on what they consider is holistic. And then I have to probe a little more and ask them, what do you think? What do you think you require from a school? Are you looking at the infrastructure? Are you looking? And most of the time, the answer is no on that. However, I feel that they haven't given it enough thought, though they want to do the best for their child and choose the best school or education for their child. They have a lot of questions regarding curriculum, a lot of myths. So I think as a parent, what you need to first sit down and do is define your thoughts on what is education and what you need for your child in future? And then based on that, start looking at the options and see what fits in. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I think yeah, that makes sense for sure. And you're right when you say that parents come in with one perception in mind, but you need to dig deeper and find out what they really want. Alan, my next question is to you. So when we did this session last in Jan, I remember that you brought in so many perspectives to how to choose a school. For instance, you said that you have gone to small schools where they were doing such a great job. It doesn't matter where you are or how big or small the school is. What matters is their how they work with the child, and how they are able to differentiate the learning for different children. So according to you, can a school play a role in how a child is able to take on problems in later in life?
Yeah, I think after the parents, the school is the most important place where this can happen. And therefore, I think it's so important that when parents think about choosing a school, and I hope they involve the child in it too, because it's very crucial, they think about finding a school that wants to do something with the child, that has ideas about child development, has ideas about what kind of citizen we need in India, has ideas about what values they want to impose. And I think it's not necessary that they share all the ideas, but if a school hasn't made clear for themselves what they want to do, then it will not happen. A school should be much more than just delivering a fixed curriculum. So you should feel the vision and values of the school when you visit the school. It should be ingrained in everything, not just beautiful words on a website, but something you can feel whoever you talk to in the school, be it the children, be it the teachers or the admin team. So ambitions beyond curriculum, to do more for the child than just preparing them for the final tests. I think that's the most important thing for a school. And then you can choose a Christian school even if you're a Hindu or vice versa, because it's not the question of the details, but on the ambition of the school. Yeah.
I agree, and in fact, I have as a journalist, I receive press releases from many schools saying, our kids won this prize and topped this. But one school in Pune actually sent me a mail saying that our children with learning difficulties scored this much, and we're really proud of them. And I thought that was really interesting, because usually, that means that they really care for all the children, in their school. You can gauge that philosophy by going to a school. So Moya, my next question is to you. So you are a mom who has had various experiences with school, and you run a community of moms as well. And of course, in India, it's very different from other countries. So, as a mom, what is your view of education and a school's role? And has your view of this changed over the years? Because when I started looking for a school, it was very different when I realized that my daughter, a certain type of school won't suit her. So, what has your journey been like?
So I've always had, like Allan said, school is so important. I mean, it's childhood. It's the epitome of childhood. So I think after family comes school. So it builds, the foundation of your child's life. They learn, they grow, they make friends, they relationships. I mean, it's everything. So I've always had that idea, but because school played such an important part in my life, both my prep school, my middle school. I mean, I still have friends from when I was 2 years old, and they'll be my lifelong friends. And they created most of my memories. And so I think it's hugely important. Even from the preschool that I chose for my children here, it had that family atmosphere, warmth, and I knew that I wanted that atmosphere to continue for my children. So when I was looking at the schools, I wanted to find that the empathy, the warmth within the environment, and the passion, as Allan said, to make my children into good citizens of the world.
Yeah, and
phone is beeping. Sorry.
Yeah, sorry. You.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can. Yes.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So,
So
I think
yeah.
it's
Please go ahead. Yeah. So my question is to Sandhya. Okay, could be it happens, and my question is to Sandhya. So yeah, I the forum a lot of parents ask us, my child is 3 and I'm choosing a school. So at age 3, we don't know much about a child. We don't know what kind of a person he or she is going to become. It's really hard to tell. So how can a parent make a decision at that age? I mean, if you were to give them some guidelines, what would you tell them?
Okay. For the pre-primary years, especially since we have a separate, smaller preschools and not even associated with schools otherwise, I would say a parent needs to look at a safe environment and a loving and warm environment for a child, as well as at that age, it's more of sensorial experiences that they learn from. You don't have to teach them anything. Spaces that are set up for them to engage and be simulated, that is what a parent needs to be looking at. The foundation for all that is set right there. It's not literacy and numeracy and all that, or the ABCs that a parent needs to be looking at that stage. Find a school that is the place for your child to be. Like Allan said, and Moya also agreed, after the home, it is the school, the next space. And you want that to be sort of like an extension. These people around, the adults around, should be nurturing adults for the child. And that's what a parent needs to be looking at age 3.
Okay, yeah, that's very true. Which we have that question a lot. In fact, on the forum, saying should I choose a school or a preschool is another huge question that we get asked a lot. And I think our are usually the same, that look at the environment and look at consider each on its own merit and see what suits your child. My question next is to Allan. So I remember that you told me that a school should have the ability to encourage leadership qualities, and I was always curious to know what you meant by that, because I know that for some children, they don't necessarily want to be leaders, even though they want to do something significant with their life. So, can you tell me more about, what you meant when you said that schools should encourage leadership?
Yeah, I very much agree with the Ashoka network of changemaker schools. They have 3 things they say are important in education. One is empowerment, one next is empathy, and the third is everyone is a change maker. And when I talk about leadership and unfolding the leadership potentials of a child, it means to develop those 3 areas. And by change making, I mean the courage to do something together with others, to see what needs to be addressed and do something about it. And that's also leadership. Leadership is not, when we talk about it in our school context, it's more personal competences, a certain mindset you need to have. And I think in the modern world, it's not enough to have 99.88% of right answers to the entry exams. When you end university, you need to be able to do something with other people. And India definitely needs people who are engaged in the community and want to do something for everything that needs to be fixed in India. And the planet definitely needs people who want to do something for the planet. Unless they do that, the planet will not have a future. So I think parents should start thinking that even though these things are not measured at tests and in the exams by now, they are equally important for the future of the child. the future will be a future with many different jobs, where with permanent learning, lifelong learning. So our children must be prepared for that. And therefore, it's so important that parents think, of course, academics is important. I totally agree on that. But it must be balanced by social and personal development of a child. So I think in India now, we have lots of schools who actually do that. So I think parents should look for schools like that, because they are everywhere now. But they should also look for schools that do it in practice, not only talk about it on the website.
I think that's really good point, and I think that is important, that in your own small way you can be, contribute to the community you're part of, and be, an important agent in this world. So my next question is for Moya. So this is a question that actually I get asked a lot, is how do I know that it's time for me to change my child's school? How can I make out if he or she is unhappy in school, and what are the signs to look out for? Because it could be that the school is trying its best, but something is not working out. So have you ever faced that, or had known anyone who faced that, and how can you look for those signs?
I think as a parent, you'd need to follow your gut. You know if your child is happy or not happy. The main thing is, I think, to gauge whether a child is happy at school is that they always want to go to school. My children, they've loved their school so much that even when they're unwell, they want to go to school. So that's when you know that they're happy. So as a parent, I think that intuition, I mean, you know if they're happy or not. In terms of whether you're getting what you have, if you think that the school might not be right for your child, talk to the teachers as well. See if there's anything that is amiss, or where they can work with you or your child to try and make a difference. If you still feel that that's not happening, then you need to take that step and think, well, is it time that I move my child? Is it time to move on? Are the boxes being ticked? And that kind of thing. So you need to evaluate from all sides, but the school needs to work with you as a parent. If you feel that things are not working, and they can openly say, look, we can't tick these boxes for you, then just you can make that step. And children are so adaptable. I mean, a lot of parents that I've spoken to, I was one of them. I worried about changing my children's school, because as I said, it's a huge, if they're loving it, why do you want to change? But they are very adaptable. We see children who travel from country to country and move from school to school, and they do fit in, and it might take them a little time to adjust, but they do adjust. So if parents are worried about moving the schools just because they're worried about that, I don't think they need to be. Do what is right for you and your child.
And I also want to ask Sandhya, so this is another question that comes very often to us. It was asked in the last session as well, in Jan, about curriculum. So when you are choosing a school, again, like you've said so often on the forum, choosing curriculum going by whether a school is BSE at 4 is a little, because obviously it's more of an integrated curriculum that they follow from the earlier. So what do you have to say to parents who are looking at the curriculum? I mean, is it important, or that important?
Okay. I'd first like to add on to what Allan and Moya was saying earlier regarding schools. Okay, we're right now talking about the uncertain future. Nobody expected the pandemic. Nobody expected lockdown. Nobody expected online education to start. A lot of us are still figuring out what is the best way to impart education till everything opens up. Many of us have figured out some way, uh, and I can safely tell you, because I'm also connected to schools, and I've been seeing the schools that are still doing well are the ones who could adapt as quickly as possible. And these are the skills that we require. And now that we know anything can happen in future, we can prepare the children, be it academically or otherwise, is by building on skills. Even if you talk about academics, you build up on learning skills. Each child is different, and that's where we adults come into the picture to facilitate that on how what works for each child individually is what we're just helping them to discover, so that they can be independent citizens of the world. I mean, just adding on to what both of you were also trying to say. And that's the help that we need to work on with the children. Now, coming to the direct question that Shweta, you were asking me regarding the curriculum. All curricula that we see today have been developed by experts who are thinking of holistic education. And this is just the academic part as far as content is concerned and assessments. However, it depends on a school on how can they incorporate all the skills together as a community. Now, even what is being done in a school, we need to extend as family. We are partnering there. Parents are partners with the school. You can't just leave your child there and expect everything to be taken care of. So, and as far as curriculum again is concerned in India, be it even international curricula, the foundation years, even up to middle school, all of them are having the same thing. You build up on those skills and choose a curriculum after middle school. There might be children who are interested more, let's say, in ICSE, because there is a vast content, the assessment is very different. But by middle school, you'll be able to figure out which curricula is the right one or the right approach for a child. When you say an IGCSE curriculum is more application based, not every child works that way, or they cannot think. Some of them, it isn't rote learning, but they are good at taking the content, understanding, analyzing it after getting the content. So that choice should be made after middle school, is my point, and find a school that builds on the skills at the foundation stage. That's the important choice that a parent needs to be looking at.
Yeah, I agree, and I know that what I really like about you is the balance that you bring in your advice, because there are some children who work well in a structure, some don't. I mean, you have to understand the child as well and make that decision. My next question is for Allan. So I wanted to ask Allan that a lot of parents ask for a holistic learning approach, or they say that we want a school that combines both academic and extracurricular activities. So again, each person has a different idea of what it means. But if you truly want to give a holistic, experience for a child, what is it that parents should look for, and what is your idea of academic rigor? I mean, is it still needed, or would you go by what the child is like?
First of all, I would say that any curriculum can be done in an excellent and a very bad way. So curriculum is, of course, important, and I agree with what Sandhya was saying. But equally more important is how which take the school has on curriculum. And what you are asking about is essential, because with every curriculum, you can do more than just deliver the curriculum. I mean, for example, when you do math, if you only do math as rote learning, you learn the academics of math, maybe you do. But you could do 21st century competences at the same time. You can do it in a collaborative way. You can develop communicative competences and critical thinking. Let the child develop why mathematical formula are as they are, and so on. So parents should look for schools that wants to do more than deliver the curriculum. And by that, I mean, do they integrate personal and social elements in their academic teaching? Do they develop the 21st century competences? And that can be done in every curriculum, from CBSE to IB, Of course, it's easier in some curriculum than it is in others, but it can be done everywhere. But even though the children might not be tested in those areas, parents should look for schools that actually do it. And one additional thing about the relationship between parents and school. In a world, in India, as opposed to my country, Denmark, where all schools are government schools, in India, we have so many private schools. And therefore, and some of them are quite expensive for parents, so it's a big investment. But they should not look at schools as customers with a checklist of deliveries from the school. As I think it was Sandhya, or was it Moya, who said, it's a partnership. It should be a partnership between parents and school. So you should look for schools that are reaching out to parents and want to create that partnership. By customer attitude, I mean, if you, for example, look at the size of the campus, or are there tennis courts, or do the school provide horse riding or golf or whatever, you might think that that's necessary if we pay a lot, but that's not at all necessary, important for the development of the child. It's much more important that the parents and school together can develop those holistic qualities of the child. And by holistic qualities, I mean the personal qualities, the identity and character, the social qualities, and the academic qualities as an integrated whole.
Thank you, Allan. And I have a lot of people here, so if you want to ask any questions, please do. My question is next to Moya. Sorry. So I wanted to ask. So you said that it's important to gauge the empathy and the quality of teaching. So how do you do that? So does a parent typically go to a school and talk to the teachers if possible? I mean, what are the factors to look for when you are interacting with the school?
So I think the key word that you said here is empathy. I think a good teacher has to have empathy no matter what. I think if you don't have empathy, you're not a good teacher, because every teacher has to relate to all of the children in their class, and they have to be able to understand them, to find out what their needs are, and to be able to follow those needs. So empathy is the key word. And for me as a parent, obviously you'll get to know the teachers through the parent-teacher meetings and things like that, but also through communication from the school. How are they communicating with you? How is the language used? How are they involving you as a parent? All of this kind of thing. It's again going back to that relationship. And if the school has a good relationship with the parents, then most of the time they pick the teachers who they know are going to fulfill that relationship. So, but now we're online. It's very difficult, because obviously you're not going to the school, you're not being able to meet the teachers. So as a new parent looking for a new school, I would ask if it's possible that you could maybe see an example of a lesson or something like that, if the school would allow you to see how they engage the children. Really look at how much time they're spending online, offline, how the children are interacting with the teachers one-on-one, and that kind of thing. So for me, that's important.
And Sandhya, I would like to ask you, so you do a lot of counseling sessions for parents. I think you will know a lot about how each parent comes to you with different queries and what their worries are. So what, according to you, are the mistakes the parents typically make when they're looking for a school? And can you give any examples or anecdotes that you had? I mean, anonymously, of course. You don't have to divulge any details, but something that will help us understand that.
Okay, so as I first said, the expectations from a parent are usually very different from what the school's philosophy or what their deliverables are. Most of the time, the very common mistake that I have seen that parents make is they try to look for a school that they think would suit them, not the child. And they need to be, thinking of the child. And as we are on the topic, what does it hold for the child in future is what they need to be looking at. The world is changing. Our generation, what the environment that we had is different from this. So they fail to look at that. What worked for us? So is the school delivering? This is what they're looking. And that is not what we require for today's or for the generation that's coming up in the future. The skills that we need are very different. The 21st century skills that we're all talking about, the parents are forgetting that they were from a previous generation. So the skills that they required were different from what the children need to be right now developing. And again, as we keep repeating, it's a partnership. They forget that part also. That's another thing that parents need to be understanding. Communication with the school, transparency, be it a problem from the parents that the parents are facing or a concern, they should be looking at a school where they can have a conversation. Even the parents should not be, attacking the schools because their expectations happen to be different. Communication is something, but um, a lot of parents are lacking in. Uh, and also, I've seen that both ways. I've seen from the school as well. The they do not. The school does not communicate properly that this is what we are about and this is what our philosophy is, and this is what we do with the children. At the same time, the parents also are not very clear on this is what we want. After getting into a school, there is no point in blaming the school for your expectation which has not been conveyed. Try a dialogue, try a conversation, as Moya was saying with her children. You have a problem, you have a concern that your child is having a problem at school. Let's say, I mean, as an anecdote, I can say that, a parent goes to the school and then starts arguing with the teacher, saying that you didn't focus on my child, or my child is being left out. It makes a lot of difference on how the parent communicates and asks the school on where is the problem. Can we find out where the problem is and work together to help the child? So this is something that we need to think about as parents. Number two, it is still seen as a commodity, that parents do think that we're paying this fee and we are buying something for the children. I think that mindset also needs to change. It's not a product. A school is not a product that you're buying and you're expecting this. As we keep repeating, and here again I'm talking about the urban space, I'm specifically talking about Bangalore, where we do have a lot of options, schools following various pedagogies and various ideas on how they can incorporate and integrate, and parents also being very aware and very particular about what they're looking for. They are particular, but they don't know how to look for it. I think uh, parents need to do a little more homework on how to choose the school, or how they need to this I cannot say enough about communication, because I've seen this going haywire, and that's a very important skill which, when the adult does not have it, how are we going to train the children? So that's very important, that both the school as well as parents need to be working on the communication part and looking at this together to partner and not as a business product that is coming about. I mean, of course, there are individual cases and different things that come into the picture, but mainly I think these are the two things that parents need to be looking at and thinking before choosing a school.
And I know you didn't answer the question of examples, but maybe I can come to you later about that. Yeah. So my question is to Allan. So I wanted to ask, another hot topic on our forum is about digital competencies in children. Particularly, you have a lot of sort of debate over what the skills for a child in the coming decades are. And I know that I think a day or so ago there was a question about things like coding and what are the skills that are going to be required. So, what is your take on this? Because from what I understand, it is not necessarily one thing like coding that matters, it is your adaptability. So, what is your take on this?
First of all, I think it's true. Last year we had questions about coding, how early should it happen, and so on. I think one important thing to tell parents is stop planning your child's career. It's impossible in the present world. So even though you have been a successful software coder, it doesn't mean that it works for your child. The child's passions might be quite different, but the world might change. I mean, now Bangalore is an IT hub, but the technology changes so fast that we don't know how this will develop in the future. So the parents should be more focused on creating happy children that are engaged in learning for life. If you scare them with too much, too dull teaching, then they're not motivated for lifelong learning. So the most important thing is the curiosity and the joy of learning. That's the first thing. About digital technology, I see it not mainly as important because of the coding skills. Coding skills can be learned in a workplace. So it can also happen in school, but it's not the most important thing. The most important thing is that children learn to interact with digital gadgets, that they are critical, that they know how they work, that they develop ethics in the way they use them, and that schools use technology to make learning much more engaging, much more creative, and much more personalized. So for me, the importance of digital technology is to make more creative and better learning. That's the main thing. And coding is okay because that's also creation, to be able to develop an idea and code it and come up with an app. That's also fine. But it's not the main thing. The main thing is we live in a digital world, therefore digital competences and digital creativity must be part of the school curriculum. But most of all, in what I call surveillance capitalism, it's necessary that children know how the world works, that when they share pictures of each other, they are on the internet and cannot be deleted and things like that. So therefore, schools cannot delete technology from the school and shouldn't. They should teach children how to interact with technology. So for me, technology is extremely important to modernize teaching. But the Indian way is more the coding way. And I think that's the least important part of the digital competences. But we will do it, of course we will, but it's not the most important thing for us to do.
And so I'm getting a couple of questions, but I'll wait to ask. So I'm almost done, but we can take questions since we have a few private questions as well. Please post it in the public chat. So my next question is to Moya. So you mentioned that we have to work with the schools. So how do you think that should be? Because as parents, we do get frustrated. Especially now during the pandemic, we have our own worries and stresses. So, how should a parent typically, partner with the school or work with the school for the child's, benefit?
So, if you're looking for a new school for your child, and you're trying to decide what you want, I think when you go into the school, or if you talk to the principal or whatever, I think that the first question that they should ask you is, as a parent, what are you looking for in a school, or what do you want for your child? They need to ask that for you. Then whatever you say, let them respond with, let them see how transparent they are. If you say, I want this, my child has learning difficulties, so I want this, see what their response is. If it's yes, we do this, blah, 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 blah. Is it realistic? Can they meet you halfway? I mean, you that relationship has to be there from the first second. They need to understand you and you need to understand them. And if they feel that you're not the right parent or your child is not right for their school, they need to be open and honest. For me, I think that's important to say that up front. Or as the parent, they can also say, okay, I don't really like this. Maybe this is not the right school for me. I think that transparency needs to be there right from the beginning. I'm not saying be difficult. I'm just saying, both of you have expectations. Even this from the school side, there's no school that says, I think they want all the right parents as well. If I'm right, Allan or Sandhya, like they also want people who are going to be on the same page as them. So you don't want parents calling up every day complaining because their expectations have not been met and yours have not been met. I mean, you have to be on the same page there. So for me as a parent, that was very important. When I'm through my children's learning, if I find that they have an issue or I have an issue, I will just approach the school, and the way they deal with things is fantastic. And so for me, that's very, very important. Other things, sorry, what were the other things you said? Was it me in general as a parent or for other parents as well?
Yeah, generally, yeah. I mean, because we do get parents, asking, this didn't work. But like Sandhya said, I think we'll have to balance our expectations and, with the schools. And what you're saying is right. I mean, we do have our own stresses, but we should put the child in the center of it and make sure that we focus on them. So we've got a couple of questions. Thanks, Moya. So I think there's a question from Ravi who asks, what should the expectations of parents from what should be the expectations of parents from schools based on their child, especially at an early age, say moving from K2 to grade 1? Sandhya, would you want to take that? Or yeah.
Yes. So as we are continuously repeating, at that age, the parents' expectation should be on the skills that are being built and all of this, and not necessarily the marks. There's another, going from the previous question as well, most parents find or look at a school based on the results of the board exam, even when they are choosing a school in grade 1. A lot of parents in India do not want to keep changing schools. They're trying to make the right choice for their children, right from grade 1 all the way up to grade 10, 12. And today, I don't think that's a really a good way to go, because you really don't know what your child is going to be. There are some children who work well with pressure. Uh, a system that a parent thinks does not work for them, like rote learning. They think it is rote learning or very academic based school. However, that might be what works for a child. The structure, that structure definitely works in building up the skill. Now, the parent needs to be very clear on, as Moya was saying, on how to how they can partner with the school or what they can understand. Another thing is, I would say, look at a school where, I'm not sure if it was Allan or Moya who said this earlier, where a parent can visit a school which is very confident in what they are doing, has no qualms about letting the parent in when the school is functioning, to understand the whole ethos of the school. I'm not even talking about academics here, because the skill building can be evident when the parent is just around there and watching. I've done that at my preschool. Parents are free to walk in at any time. Any inquiry would come in. My children were used to it. So it never took them from the work that they were doing. Or, I mean, I call it work, but it is their play. So I think the parents need to, look at things differently, especially in an urban setting like ours. Uh, and there is no one size fits all, and there is no solution for the perfect future. That's another expectation that parents always have, trying to make the perfect choice. There is no perfect choice in life. We need to build that up even in children. Children are resilient as long as they get the right support from an early age. And parents still need to look at building skills for the 21st century, as well as empathy and being a good human being. Any school that provides this integrated together, that's the school that you should be looking at. Thanks.
And we have quite a few questions. I think I want to ask the next question. We have a couple of very interesting questions actually. One I want to ask Allan. Should we choose a school based on our own childhood and experiences? That's an interesting one because we have had very different experiences. I mean, for one, I never changed my school in all of, I don't know what, 16, 17 years. I stayed in the same school. I diverse experiences, and I used to think that that's perfectly fine and turned out fine. But there are different ways of looking at that. So Vidya Kamat's question is, should we choose it based on our own childhood and experiences?
I think for the partnership we're talking about between parents and school, personal experience is not necessarily a bad thing. I mean, if you're confident with what the philosophy and what the school is doing altogether, it is easier for you as a parent to trust that the school is doing the best thing. So if that is the reason for choosing the school, that is fine. But if the reason is that you have made a good career and you want the same life for your child, then it's a bad idea, because every child is unique. Every child should have the freedom to develop its own passions and own choices of subjects and further education. And as I said before, parents should give up planning the whole life and the career for their child, but do it in collaboration with the child and the school. But I've seen also in my own country, successful stories where many generations have attended the same school, and it's very successful because they really trust each other and get to know each other. My sister went there, so I will also go there. That can be fine. But the planning of life of the child should be given up, because the world is a different place now. I'm not saying that the career is unimportant. On the contrary, I just say it's unpredictable. So you need to prepare for that you need to prepare for that uncertain world, so that the child is confident with that. And you, as a parent, you can support the child in taking the right choices. But there is no perfect choice of a school. There is no perfect choice of a career. You take the best choices based on what you know at a certain time. And mostly it's successful. I mean, most people think of their school as something they remember with joy. And some people who are not that satisfied remember joyful things as well. So give up perfection. Do the best you can based on the information you have at a certain time.
Moya, you want to add something? Yeah.
I just wanted to say, just going back to picking the school based on childhood experiences, when I was an admissions officer, I think 90% of the parents that came to me with, they would say, oh, well, this is how our education was when we were a child, and we want the complete opposite, or we want the exact same. So I think 99% of the parents do choose a school based on how their schooling was. I mean, that's in my experience. That's what I've seen. So if you had a good childhood and a happy school, you want the same kind of things. If you had an unhappy childhood in a sort of school where, you know, you're forced to study morning, noon, and night, they want something completely opposite. So I think, yeah, you need to go by however, whatever makes you feel right.
Lots more questions. This is an interesting question. I don't know who wants to take it, but I think maybe Sandhya, based on her Vidya asks, what if my partner and I have different views on a school or school philosophy?
Okay, so I get this quite a lot from parents, especially when they're choosing to homeschool or choose a school. Yes, based on her next question, I can see each of you, even as partners, your childhood experiences have been very different. And choosing a philosophy, especially one that is very different from the norm, needs to be a joint decision by the parents. The reason being, these schools also expect the parents to be partnering in the journey for the child. And if the parents are not on the same page regarding this, it gets very difficult for the child. Everybody's focus is again on the child, and then you have arguments on, is academics important, is alternative homeschooling or alternative ways of teaching more important. I've had parents come to me where yes, one parent is saying that, what about the future? Academics is important. Unless you start building on that and focusing on that, all these other things, extracurricular is good, we need that, but those are just like hobbies. While the partner or the other parent's experience of school has been so different that they want a free structure for the child, not to be burdened with the academics at this stage. Now, these are very two, you cannot say it's right or wrong. And if a school can help both the parents make that choice together and help them to come to a middle ground, you're not making the answer, uh, I mean, you're not giving them the answer, but you're kind of helping them arrive at that thought process together. It will definitely not work with two parents having different thoughts on a philosophy. And maybe then it's for the parents to go back and see how they can work out their differences on this part before choosing a school for a child. It does, because end of the day, it's not even the parents, it is the child who is getting affected by all of this, you know. And I think it's important that the partners need to work through this to understand and take external help if necessary. So, because I have a lot of parents who do come to me with opposing, sometimes it's really very different, and I need to help them. It's more of me helping the parents to make their choice rather than telling them that this is what's going to work for your child. I end up counseling the parents a lot more than, you know, talking to the child, even if it's an older child. So you need to work on that.
Yeah, and I get that, and there's another question that I don't know who wants to take it. So I think we did touch upon it briefly towards the beginning. Ravi wants to ask, how do you pick the board, IBS, CBSE or ICSE, or should it not matter at that young age of grade one? It's more the learning that counts than which board is picked. I think we did speak about this initially. If Sandhya wants to,
Yes, I just want to add on, like, one of the boards that's mentioned does focus on skills at the early age. It is not it's not an Indian board, but an international board, which is expensive and cannot be a choice for many. However, I've also seen schools um, which do follow an Indian curriculum in using these very same philosophy of this international board, which builds on the skills. They integrate the curriculum with the skill building. So it's not important, yes, I answered this earlier, that it's not important to choose a board at that stage. um, even the schools, the boards that are mentioned here, I will come out and say that the NCERT board does have a curriculum, but it does not tell you how to go about it. As a school, you are free on how you can integrate it. I know CBSE schools which have integrated the IB philosophy into that, the curriculum part of it, which is possible. Regarding the ICSE, the last couple of years, they do have a framework for primary and middle school. However, that was not the case for many, many, many years. And it's only a framework even now. The curriculum comes into the picture only in high school. The school is free to build on what is required. So it's more of the learning that counts. And again, it is not academic learning. We are talking about building citizens for the future, and those skills are what needs to be developed, and choose a school accordingly and not by the board.
Okay. And I had to mute you there, Allan. I'm really sorry because I was getting some echo from your end. Apologize for that. So there's a next question that I have. I think I would like to ask Allan about this.
Shweta,
Yeah, sure.
I think Allan was trying to say something on that same question.
Oh, please. Okay. Yes, let me. Yes, sure. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I would just add that I really think that it's much more important how the school is dealing with the board than the board in itself. And I've seen fantastic CBSE schools and not so fantastic. So the board is no guarantee for anything. And I think for early years, and now it's clear I come from Scandinavia and from Denmark, where we talk very much about the holistic approach, and we are very concerned about the happiness and mental health of the children. There must be, for early years and grade 1 to 2, there must be a balance between fun and play on one side and rigor on the other side. If there's only rigor, then they lose the joy of learning. If there's only fun and play, they will be behind. And it is possible to find a balance between those extremes. So I think that could be a general answer, that also if the parents are divided on that question, that find a school that can do both. It's possible, they exist out there, also in Bangalore.
Of course. Yes, Moya, please.
So yeah, I agree with Allan. I mean, even if a school says that they have they follow the IB or ICSE or IGCSE, a lot of the times these schools have a sort of hybrid curriculum. They add in elements from other curriculums which they really like. So I've seen, IGCSE schools who add in a lot of the IB philosophy, or add in a lot more, tests from the ICSE. So you really need to ask the school what they add in, what they like, what they don't like. So don't just say, okay, this is an IGCSE school and I'm just getting the Cambridge. You really need to see what they're adding in or taking away and see whether that works for you, because a lot of the schools don't, whatever they're accredited by, a lot of them don't always just go with those boards, in my experience.
Right. So I want to ask Allan this question from Ravi. What is your take on the number of years of an existence of a school? A relatively newer school of, say, 5 years vis-a-vis one that's been around for 10, 15 years. Is there any risk in picking a newer school?
I think there are pluses and minuses, both with new schools and old schools. So we can't come up with a general answer. But the positive thing you get from a new school is a lot of enthusiasm, teachers who want to develop new ideas and are very much engaged in the learning of the children, not so much routine, a lot of engagement. That's what you normally will get from a new school. On the other hand, you might need to accept that not everything works in a new school. They don't have all the operationals in place necessarily. So it will depend on what you think is most important. For an old school, I would say, some old schools have been able to develop and develop new concepts, but very many have not. So you will need to see if there's still in an old school is a will to develop, a will to learn, a will to try new things. And if that exists in an old school, then old schools can be very good. So there's no answer saying old or new schools are the best. It depends very much on your mindset as a parent. Are you courageous, or do you want to be safe? And the mindset of the two types of schools. If a new school is only made because a promoter wants to earn money from constructing schools, maybe you should stay away from that kind of school. But if it's made by people who are really engaged in doing something new for education in India, that might be the place for your child. So, yeah, it's as usual with education, it's one side and the other.
I think Sandhya wanted to add to this.
Yes, as Allan was saying, there is no one right answer. I was trying to add on to what Allan said about the established schools, which have been around a lot more. Even if they're looking at new things that they would try at a school, they will stick to their philosophy without moving from that. There are schools where academic rigor has worked for most of their children as well. They do have rigor in all areas that they focus on, and they think it's important because it's worked for a majority of their children. So parents sticking, and I feel, as Allan said, a newer school would give more focus to a child, and then it also helps to build up the bond between this parent and the school. I've seen quite a few good schools that have come up in Bangalore in the last few years. Then they're hardly now 5 years old. So and I do see them growing, and you need to see who's making the team of the school as well. That's very important. So even established schools who have been around for 10, 15, the team, as long as they imbibe the philosophy and know what to project. So I think that's what you need to be looking at for a school. 5 year, 10 years, 20 years, 50 years, it doesn't matter. It's the people who make that system that a parent needs to be looking.
And so I have a question from Hemant. If anyone else wants to answer a question that I ask another panelist, please do let me know. Hemant has a question, and again, I think whoever wants to answer this can. Hi all, this is Hemant. What flexibility can we expect from schools in the admission process for the next year, considering the uncertainty with the pandemic? We don't even know if physical classes would begin by next June for kindergarten, and a lot of schools have already started the application process. How do we approach this, please? Yeah, whoever wants to take that.
Yeah, I could.
Okay.
I mean, as schools, we have to improvise. We don't know when we're allowed to open, so we don't know if we need to continue with online learning in next academic year. I don't think so, but can't know. When we should have opened by July, and we didn't. And I was opposed to online learning because I didn't think it was the right thing for small kids. But with the extension of the pandemic, I could see that online was better than nothing. So we did that. So we had to improvise. Suddenly we had to create an online environment, and we hadn't planned for that. We have done that, and it's working okay for us. So what will happen is that, and that's not so good an answer for the parents, but schools have to be prepared for the physical opening. And therefore, there's a lot of cost connected to having a school building and a staff and so on, no matter if you use it or not. So therefore, there is a clash between the expectations from parents that it must be cheaper now that they are not using the building, and the reality for schools, where we can see, yes, we nearly have the same expenses as we did earlier. So I think what parents must expect is that there will not be very big reductions in fee because of COVID-19. Many private schools are really facing huge financial problems right now.
Right. Yeah. And so we'll have to wind up now. And I know this is a discussion that we can really talk for a long about this. But you can always reach out to Allan through the Chaman Bhartiya stall, which is there at the Bangalore Education Online Expo. Sandhya, Moya and I are always around on Facebook. I mean, we are always talking to parents and to moms. So we're always there for, if you want to reach out with us with any other queries. A couple of questions which we've already answered. So you can watch this on demand later on the auditorium. So thank you very much to all our panelists. I mean, it was a wonderful discussion. It is really important to answer this question in many ways, because there's just no one way of choosing a school. So thank you, Allan, thank you, Sandhya, thank you, Moya, for being here. So it's always a pleasure. And please do tune in for the session on NEP at 3 p.m. We have a lot of questions and interesting takes on that. So please join us. And thank you all, and have a great afternoon. Good Sunday. Bye.
Thank you for having me. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you very much.
Yeah,
Bye.
take care.
How do we
Just close it, and you close it on your...
There's a more, and you can exit the webinar.
Yeah, you can just close
There's
the...
three dots, and you can
okay.
exit.
Okay. Bye. Thank you.
Bye. See you. Bye.